So remember what I said yesterday, that we are getting one side of the conversation between St. Paul and the Corinthians. There was a letter that the Corinthians sent to Paul with a series of questions and concerns. And, obviously today we don't have that letter, okay? But we do have St. Paul's letter in his response to those questions. And today, judging by the reading, the question must have been, hey, Paul, can we eat this meat? Okay. Now, it's funny, the last line that St. Paul says, I will never eat meat again, so it may not cause my brother to sin. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not holding to that standard, okay? All right. Look, here's the issue. Just pretend you're a Christian, okay, living in Corinth, okay, back in 50 AD. And you're like, oh, well, I got to make dinner tonight. Okay, so you go to the market, and in the market there's beef and there's lamb, there's pork. Now, if you were a Jewish Christian, you probably wouldn't even go near the pork. Okay, and there's chicken and goat and whatever other meats they would have had back then. Okay, so you go and, give me a pound of this and a pound of that, and you pay them, and then you come back. That meat that you just purchased most likely was the meat that came from the animal sacrifices to the pagan gods. Okay, so, the pagans would do their sacrifices in the temple, and then they would take the meat and then they would sell it in the market. Okay, so that's the underlying issue here. And so what seems to be happening is, for a very mature and devout Christian, as St. Paul says at the beginning, that he knows that there is no other gods besides the one God, that there are no idols. For the well-mature Christian, they can eat the meat and know that really they're not partaking in the sacrifice. They understand that they're just doing it just to feed themselves. However, there were also new Christians who were very young and immature in their faith, who just converted from the pagan faith, who, by observing other Christians eating that meat, might get the idea saying, oh, okay, pagan sacrifices are okay. Okay, that's part of the Christian religion. And that's what St. Paul is saying by leading the other into sin. That those who are weak or new to the faith, immature in the faith, okay, might be misled and then continue in participating in those sacrifices, okay, by the observance of watching another Christian eat that meat. So that's why St. Paul says at the end, look, if it's going to lead people into sin, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be a vegan, okay? Yeah, anyways, okay. There's another message, though, within all this, a message that we can tie to the Eucharist, because, for example, you take the Passover, and one of the requirements of participating in the Passover was to consume the flesh of the lamb that was sacrificed. When you did that, you became part of the sacrifice. You became part of God's saving action. And that idea, that mentality of eating the meat of the sacrifice comes right into our Mass, too. Because the Mass is a holy sacrifice, but it is also a communal meal, in a sense that now when you consume the real presence of Jesus, you are partaking in his sacrifice, partaking in his saving action. You become a full member, of his beloved sonship, a full member of the church. So the eating, the consuming of the Holy Eucharist is a vital part, an important part, not necessary though, a necessary part. Okay, sometimes you can come to Mass and not receive communion. You can do what's called a spiritual sacrifice, but nonetheless, when we eat this bread and drink this cup, as St. Paul says, we partake of your death and resurrection, O Lord. We remember your death and resurrection until you come again. May God bless you.